In 1 month, I flipped just 5 marketplace items and walked away with over $4,000. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Throughout this video, you're going to get quick and simple breakdowns of the 5 flips that I had this month, along with the occasional pop-up of our profit counter that you will see in the bottom right corner. This first flip of the month was a 2012 Yamaha TTR 50 with the electric start. And this thing ran and drove great, aside from being really dirty as you can see in these up-close videos, as well as having those vinyl stickers that we definitely need to remove. Our first step with this is running by our local car wash so that we can get this thing washed up, and also removing these vinyl stickers with the pressure washer at the same time to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And while you guys get to watch these short wash clips, I'll go ahead and tell you how much we got this thing for. We picked this bike up from an older gentleman who replaced it with a brand new Yamaha YZ65 for his grandson, and he really just wanted to get this one out of the way, so he let it go for super cheap at only $450, so that's really lucky for us. With this bike back in the garage and all dried off, you can see that it looks so much better after washing it, but it still looks a bit dull and it's definitely starting to show its age. Additionally, if you take a really close look at these plastics, you can see that they're pretty scratched up from riding through brush and woods. But thankfully, we have something that's going to make the appearance of this bike so much better. If you guys have watched any of my other flipping videos, you know just how much I love this SC1 from Maxima Racing Oils, who actually market this product with the slogan "New Bike in a Can" because it makes these older bikes look so good. Not only does this stuff give a nice gloss to these older dull plastics, but it will also make it much easier to wash the bike next time for the new owner. Anything like mud that gets caked up on these fenders after riding will wash right off because it literally has a layer of silicone between it and the plastics. Now diving right into these after shots, you can see how much better this bike looks after we washed it and coated it with our SC1. I went ahead and took pictures of this bike and threw it on Marketplace for $1,200 since it's right around Christmas time and I knew that something like this would be in pretty high demand. After only 4 days, we had an interested buyer for this bike, and after looking at it, we agreed on a price of $1,050. Since we got an absolute steal in this bike at $450 and it needed nothing else, and then we sold for $1,050, that left us with a profit of $600 on this bike. Our next flip that I found while scrolling Marketplace was something that's very out of the ordinary for this channel, but it's also one of the coolest and most unique flips that I've had to date. I found a set of OEM Ferrari wheels listed on Marketplace for only $1,000 that came off of a 1999 Ferrari 360 Modena. As you can see in this description, the seller says that the tires are spent, but the wheels were in great shape with no significant paint defects or scratches. And if you look at the bottom, it says looking for a quick sale, price is OBO. Once I saw this, I knew it was at least worth a shot, so I hopped on eBay and found some comps to see what these things were selling for, and I knew that there was some profit to be made, so I shot the seller an offer of $800 and he accepted. Once I had the wheels, I reached out to a local powder coating and refinishing shop to see about getting these things coated in gloss black, and as you can see, they did a wonderful job doing this. In order for these wheels to be sandblasted and powder coated gloss black, I paid the company $400 and we were ready to get these things listed for sale. To be completely transparent, I had no idea what the best way to sell these things were, but I knew that they were worth more than I had invested in them. So I hopped on Facebook, listed these things on Marketplace, and then additionally found some Ferrari for sale groups and listed them in there as well, which is what ultimately led to the sale. At this point, we had only $1,200 invested in these wheels, and the buyer agreed to buy them for $3,200. The only caveat to this sale is that the buyer was a few states away, so we had to wrap these things up to be shipped, so we boxed them up and shipped them to his door. For complete transparency, here's a screenshot of the electronic deposit that I received from the buyer that came straight to my bank. Now it does show a little bit less than the $3,200 that we agreed upon, but this is just due to the fees that were charged for both buyer and seller protection so that nobody got scammed on this deal. And now for the profit breakdown on these wheels, we bought them in their stock form for $800, paid the company $400 to do the sandblasting and powder coat, and paid an additional $200 to have these things shipped out. These fees bring our total investment for these wheels up to $1,400, and we received around $3,150 after selling them, so that brings our total profit on these wheels to $1,750. Adding this to the $600 that we received from the last flip, that brings our total so far for the month up to $2,350. And now with that really unique flip over, we're hopping back into what we know best for this next flip. I found this very nice in what seems to be a very well taken care of 07 Polaris Sportsman 90 on Marketplace. And as you can see in this description, they also just serviced this machine, so it shouldn't need much at all. Once I drove there, looked this thing over and picked it up, it was actually in much better condition than I even expected. It had brand new tires on the rear, and although they said the front tires were dry rotted in the description, they looked completely fine and maybe had a couple of hairline cracks, which is to be expected from tires that are from 2007. For this one, we ran by our local car wash, hit this thing with a pre-soak and let it sit there for a few minutes, and then hit it with a spot-free rinse, and this thing was already looking so much better. With this thing drying overnight, you can see just how good it looks from only that wash. You can see though, just as with the Yamaha TTR50, this thing's a little dull just from its age. To take care of that, I went and hit these tires with some Meguiar's Hot Shine tire coating, because these are a little bit bigger and I didn't want to waste too much SC1 on them because it is pretty expensive. And now with these tires shined up, we need to make the plastics match, and for that we're going to use our SC1 and hit all of these black plastics as well as all the red plastics. Now if you're paying more attention than I am and notice this big spider crawling around at my feet that I didn't see, you get extra bonus points. Since we were able to negotiate with the seller on this thing and get them down to $700, I knew that we were going to have a really good profit on this flip after seeing how good it looks with this SC1. I went ahead and snapped some quick pictures of this thing and threw it on Facebook Marketplace for $13.50. And after just a couple days, we had someone interested in buying it, so we met up and let them look it over. We finally agreed on a price of $1,200 for this one, and I was super happy with that because we didn't have to do anything to this one other than clean it up and present it better than the previous owner did. Since we only invested $700 in this and then sold it for $1,200, that brings our profit on this flip up to $500. When we add this $500 to the total of $2,350 that we made before this Polaris, that brings our current total to $2,850 for the month. Our next flip was this 2014 CRF 125F, and I'm not even gonna lie, this bike is a little too rough for my standards. This was one of those marketplace deals where the description states that the bike is in phenomenal shape and has no issues at all, only for you to show up and it looks like their sole job was just to beat this bike up. Seeing the condition that this bike is in, I honestly would never have even went to go look at it, but they used pictures from when they purchased the bike to advertise it on Marketplace. So the pictures were at least 3 to 4 years old and it looks nothing like it does right now. And if it's hard to see some of the things that I'm complaining about in this video, just to give you a quick idea of some of the things that were wrong with this bike, it had a broken front chain guard where the chain had came off and smacked the side of the engine. It had no leaks, but the chain guard was definitely missing. The entire body had black spray paint overspray all over it. The parts of the side plastic that hold both the seat down and the plastics to the bike were broken. As you can see, they're held together by zip ties, as well as the seat is held down with a self-tapping screw. It seemed like every time there was a small issue that the previous owner experienced with this bike, they did not believe in fixing it the correct way and just threw whatever they had at it. Thankfully though, I was able to negotiate down a lot on this bike, or I would have just left and not even bought it. I typically would sell one of these that are in really good shape around $2,000 to $2,200, and the seller originally had this one listed for $1,500, so I thought it was a phenomenal deal until I saw it in person. After pointing out all the issues and telling the seller that I really wasn't interested in it unless they dropped the price a lot, they eventually agreed to $950 on this bike. I spent a lot of time on the drive home with this bike debating on whether it was even worth it to fix all the issues with it, or to just doctor it up a bit and send it on its way. And ultimately, that's what I decided to do. After the wash, you can see that this bike looks a bit better. And I also took a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to these white plastics and was able to get some of the yellowing and the overspray off of them. But this front fender is absolutely cooked. So we're going to see if we can bring it back just a little bit later with some heat from a heat gun. But overall, you can tell that this bike definitely needs some paint touch-ups and a little bit of love on the cosmetics. But thankfully, it's very mechanically sound other than needing a service, which I went ahead and knocked out by giving this thing a quick oil change, air filter, and a new spark plug. In an attempt to make this front fender look a bit better, I took my heat gun on the high setting and slowly worked over the whole plastic and heated it up using small circular motions. The idea here is to get the plastic hot enough to release some of the oils that are below the surface without getting it too hot that you burn the plastics. It's pretty common for people to try to use something like a propane torch to do this, but sometimes when you do that, if you're not careful, you can end up burning the plastics or ending up with a lot of tiger striping after it cools down. Going over this front fender with the heat gun did help a bit, but as you'll see in the after shots, it was a little too far gone to save. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into these paint touch-ups. When I'm doing touch-ups like these, I like to use a satin finish paint. I see a lot of people trying to use a gloss, and then it stands out really bad that it's not OEM paint. Of course, you'll never make this stuff match perfectly by just grabbing a spray can off of the counter, but doing this really does make a huge difference in the appearance of the bike, and when you're looking at it in person, it's really not all that noticeable. After servicing this bike and giving our paint enough time to dry, we went ahead and hopped in with a tire shine and our SC1 to make this thing shine. You can see in these after shots that this bike does look a lot better, and I do also feel a lot better about selling it since I serviced it with that fresh oil, filters, and spark plug. Really, the only thing that I'm not super happy with at the moment is this front chain cover missing, but it's built into the case of the engine, so there's really nothing I can do. With knowing how badly this bike was treated by the previous owner, there was no way I could list it where I would normally list these around the $2,200 mark. And since I was in it for only $950, I decided let's just throw it on there for $1,500 and see if somebody wants it. Thankfully, within the week, we had someone that was interested, and they didn't even try to negotiate and bought it for the $1,500. So when we take that $1,500, subtract the $950 that we have invested in it, that gives us a profit of $550 on this bike, which I'm super happy with. When we add this $550 to our previous total of $2,850, that gives us a current total for the month of $3,400. And finally, our last flip for the month was a super cool 2002 Polaris Scrambler 50. This ATV was in really good shape and also has super low hours on it, as you can tell by looking at these original tires that are still on this thing and in phenomenal shape. You could probably tell by the dust that had collected on top of this thing that it hasn't ran in quite a while, and the seller just could not figure out what was wrong with this thing. Considering how good this ATV looked, I figured it was definitely worth the risk, even if I had to rebuild the entire motor on this thing, because he only wanted $300 to get this thing out of the way. So we went ahead and picked this thing up, ran by the car wash to get it hosed off, and then took it back so that we could figure out what was going on with this thing. Unfortunately, my head cam's video file corrupted, so I wasn't able to video me fixing this thing, but it turns out the only thing that was wrong with this ATV was that it had fouled its spark plug. With this being a two-stroke ATV, that's something that's really common, and I guess the seller just did not think to check it. Taking a look at these after shots, you can see just how good of a shape this little Polaris was in. We sold this ATV for $900, giving us a total profit on this thing of $600. And when you add that $600 to our previous total, we get a total profit for the month of $4,000. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't take this as a brag of making money on Facebook Marketplace. Take it as inspiration that you can do the same thing. If you like this video and want to see more content like this of flipping things on Facebook Marketplace, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. I already have a few videos uploaded, and we have many more on the way.